Hello, and welcome back to Visiting Dugout, a Fans First Sports Network production. I'm Chrystal O'Keefe. I have a wonderful returning guest on to talk about the Twins today. It is Brandon Warne. I'm sure many of you know him. So hello and welcome back. It's been a while.
It's great to be here. I wish it was under better circumstances for both of our ball clubs, but hey, it's always fun to catch up with an old friend.
Of course. So with that said, seems like there's a lot of new things going on with the Twins. So what's happening over there?
Everything and nothing at all. The Twins are in the process of kind of acclimating their trade deadline acquisitions into the roster. Alan Roden has already gotten hurt and is out for the rest of the season, but that has allowed them to give James Outman some significant run, and so far he's looked pretty good. Has as many hits with the Twins as he did with the Dodgers all season. So, or at least he's getting there. But it's been a season of change. It's been a lot of difficult change from the standpoint of like if you're a fan and grow attached to certain players. But with that said, there have been some improvements. Now it's not exactly a one-to-one apt comparison, but they have a better ERA since the trade deadline than they did before, which I think would shock a lot of people. So it's been curious to say the least. But you know what? It's fun to see new players, unless they're like Jose Urena, who is not very good.
Yeah. As someone who watches a team that is full of rookies or second year guys, it has been fun. There are a lot of young players that I really enjoy watching, but at the same time, it's frustrating because it's like somebody new gets called up. You're like, who the hell is this guy? This is like a relief pitcher. I don't know who you are. This is frustrating, but it can be fun. I've grown accustomed to a lot of new players.
Yeah, the fun thing with the Twins too is they've got players who have big league experience, but they sent them to AAA to kind of have them maybe like with Taj Bradley, who obviously has pitched in the big leagues. They're working on a couple different things. I think more with him, it's a third pitch because that's kind of been the knock on him. And with Mick Abel, who has been wonderful at St. Paul, it's I think they're having him work on a sweeper, and I think with Bradley it's a split change. But those are two of the staples for the Twins pitching coach Pete Mackey as far as like what he likes to see guys throw. So a couple of guys who might factor into this rotation definitely next year, but maybe down the stretch. I don't think really don't think the White Sox would see either of them, but nothing's impossible.
It's true. I have been refreshing the probable pitchers page for like an hour now to see any kind of update.
Oh, we didn't know who was starting for the Twins on Thursday until Thursday morning when the lineup card came out. So I mean, it's literally wait and see. Obviously, nobody's excited to see Urania, but they've been doing a lot of bullpen games too, where they have a couple guys on this plan where they pitch every 4 days instead of every five, and
Mhm.
it's Pearson Ole who you will definitely see. I mean, unless something unusual happens, Thomas Hatch, who you may be familiar with, has been kind of a journeyman. They've just been kind of piecing it together because these games are all about development. And when you watch as many rookies as you and I have lately, at least, you're going to see flashes of some really exciting, jaw dropping stuff. And then you're going to see, like the Twins on Wednesday night, a rookie or a young guy get thrown out at third with two outs trying to take a base with Royce Lewis pinch hitting at the plate. You know, there's going to be those mistakes because of how fast the game moves. So it's certainly not watching a team that's in contention. It's more along the lines of these are spring training games and you got to figure things out.
So let's go back to the trade deadline. Obviously, there was kind of a fire sale going on in Minnesota. So how are you feeling about kind of what the Twins got rid of and anything that they might have acquired in that as well?
It's tricky because they gutted a bullpen that was built really well. I wouldn't necessarily say it had pitched as well as it was built, but anytime you can get position players and or starting pitchers for relievers, a lot of times those deals are beneficial to the team trading the reliever out. We've already seen Brock Stewart get injured with the Dodgers, and you never wish ill on anybody, but it's a consistent pattern in his career Love the guy and an incredible pitcher when he was healthy, but that was the risk and why the Twins ended up settling for a 28-year-old outfielder who couldn't find time with the Dodgers because they signed somebody every year. Couldn't nudge Michael Conforto off the roster. I'm not really sure about that one, but that's kind of the thing there. But when you can trade a 30-year-old reliever like Griffin Jacks and get back Taj Bradley, who not that long ago was one of the biggest pitching prospects in the game, the road has been bumpy. But what rookie pitchers have we seen where they hit the ground running and stay that good for a long time? It's pretty rare. So if the Twins can get him on the end of that, welcome to MLB, a gem one time, a clunker next, add a couple things to his toolbox, you can see the vision there. And with Varland, obviously nobody loves that he was the Minnesota boy with 5 years of club control left. But if you can trade a reliever and get an outfielder who has just an insane walk rate and is pretty good defensively, granted, again, he's hurt, so that stinks, but also a flame-throwing left-handed pitcher who they think can start, has moved up to AAA already, a lot of that is kind of a no-brainer. As for Carlos Correa, that was the tricky one. And I have to say, the worst part of the Correa trade for me was who broke it to me. It was Jim Bowden on MLB
Oh,
Network Radio. Ralph on the spot with the news. So didn't love that. Didn't love the return, but obviously if the getting out is good and if Correa is cooked, which he hasn't been great the last week or so. So just
hmm
keep that in mind. He's got a 730 OPS coming into Thursday. So this is not a guy who's vintage Carlos Correa, no matter how good he was for the first couple games. Maybe they got out at the right time. I don't know. It's hard to say, but all of the trades in totality are just an absolute wave of shock. But then you kind of parse them out and you're like, okay, I see what the vision was there. And they kept Buxton, they kept Joe Ryan, they kept Pablo Lopez. They still got Royce Lewis. Luke Keeschel has been exceptional. There's still pieces here for this not to be a total rebuild or gut job, but more along the lines of, what do you show me in the offseason? Do they maybe sign somebody? Do they add a couple pieces and go for it? I mean, the Central is not infallible by any means.
right. Yeah, I think there would have been a riot had like Joe Ryan gone. I could just see that getting
Sounds like it
very
might have been close. We don't know, and he still might, but
yeah.
he has been just so good this year that it would really be a shame.
He's so much fun to watch. I am supposed to hate the Twins based on being a White Sox fan, but there are too many Twins players that I genuinely do like. Like I love Joe Ryan. I love Byron Buxton, and I also reached the point where my team is so bad that sometimes you just have to look for other players to bring you happiness
Mm-hmm.
and follow just what they're doing. That's kind of where I'm at in my journey as a White Sox fan right now.
Cold world and a very negative sport. Failure is everywhere in baseball, so we don't need to add any of it ourselves. So find the happy in baseball. It can be hard to do, but it's worth it.
Yeah, I also feel like the Korea trade was like karma. I saw somebody say he went back to his cheating ex, and you mentioned he's not
Yeah,
been outstanding. He is nowhere near what he used to be. So I kind of love
he's
that
third. He's
for
not
him.
even a shortstop anymore.
No, he's not. I love that for him.
Yeah.
So it doesn't sound, and I mean, we're at the end of August. We've got a month and a half left of baseball realistically for our teams. So, kind of reflecting back on this season, did you sense doom and just a rebuild at the beginning of the season, or did you come into it kind of comfortable and confident?
I came into it with excitement and like I always have a little bit of like nervous energy. Used to call it anxiety until I understood what anxiety really was. So more like a nervous excitement, and it just never clicked. Like the pieces were there. They were great bullpen build, starting rotation fronted by two of the better starters in the division. They weren't Detroit, but they didn't have to be. And then the offense, according to Fangraphs roster resource, projected had 8 guys with WRC plus over 100, and then Brooks Lee was like 92. So like you look at that and you're like, oh, a team with Carlos Correa, Byron Buxton, Royce Lewis. Why wouldn't they be right in the thick of it? They didn't hit with the bases loaded. They have had like the worst season with bases loaded in like 40 years, like a Phillies team or Pirates team way back in the 80s. They did get their first grand slam, though. Brooks Lee did hit a grand slam off former teammate Chris Paddock here on the homestand. So they did get their grand slam finally. But just in big spots, Carlos Correa hitting a 112-mile-per-hour grounder for a double play or a pop-up. Like they never had the moments that clicked. If they could even have normalized their bases loaded production to what they did this year on the whole, or even just some standard deviation or two above what they did. Again, not expecting the world, something pretty unreasonable. That trade situation probably doesn't happen. And instead of 10 games under, right now you're probably looking at a team fighting for 500, which right now, I mean, the Rangers they picked up Danny Coulomb from the Twins. They got a piece or two. They still think they have a chance. It's not a great chance. It might be 9-10%. But the Twins could be there instead of here, which is basically extended spring training.
Yeah, this has been such an odd, and I think the American League Central is always just very weird. You never know. I mean, I feel like it's a constant race to the end of the season to see who's going to come out on top because it always feels different. And while I kind of predicted the Tigers would lead this division this year, and I mean they took that division from day one, and they've just not really let go, even with their horrific kind of post trade deadline showing.
Right.
It's been weird, but I didn't expect the Twins to be, second to last. I mean, I knew the White Sox would be, but like the Royals being randomly good, the Tigers just blowing everybody out of the water.
Well,
I did not see it shaking out this way in August.
it didn't have to be this way. The Twins came out of the deadline playing the Rockies and the Nationals and did nothing.
Yeah.
As much as you don't place your faith in small sample size analysis, if you don't take care of business against the two teams, I know the Nationals are the worst team since the All-Star break, or maybe it's since the Twins played in Sacramento. Sacramento is where the Twins season fell apart. Funny enough, they're playing them and getting swept by them here at Target Field heading into the White Sox series. But the Twins have been one of the worst teams since they went to Sacramento, where Pablo Lopez got hurt. He's still not back. This is in early June. Zebby Matthews got screwed up. That mound is terrible. And the season just hasn't been the same. The Nationals are the worst team in baseball since then, and the Twins couldn't take care of business. They're getting what they deserve.
I understand that. I understand entirely. And it's weird because the White Sox had this different approach and they came out of the All-Star break a completely different team. And now they're back to like, oh no, that's the White Sox. Wheels are falling off again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's just the way it goes. I mean, sometimes
it's okay. This is very dark.
My dog heard the FedEx person at the door, so I apologize for that.
Yep.
We were saying, the struggles. I mean, when you limp to the finish line or you limp to the deadline, there's not much more you can do to inject life into a team that's not producing. And I think they're changing the identity. Byron Buxton is the leader. He's the backbone of this team. But I think Carlos Correa might have had leadership skills that were a bit exaggerated. Not like badly, but I also think too, like, how much do you believe in a leader who preaches all this stuff and then is having a tough year? You got to lead by example in addition to your words, and I don't know that it was there this year. So nevertheless, the Twins are moving forward in a different path. They're a little more loose, having a little more fun, a little more athletic, which I think they saw against Milwaukee, the difference in athleticism and what that meant. So, we'll see how that goes moving forward. They've got a lot of prospects too who are close. Walker Jenkins, and they have Kalen Culpepper, their first round pick last year, is already at AA and playing well there. So they've got some pieces. They'll be interesting next year at the very least. Hopefully they can be good. But my adage is if you can't be good, at least be interesting. They'll at least be interesting.
Yeah, the White Sox right now are at least fun bad.
Yes.
Where I've kind of stuck with. They're not great, and I have no real expectations. I feel like next year will be a little better with Will Venable being in his second season of managing and kind of getting used to this young core. But like, if they can at least be fun bad,
Yeah.
I'll be happy.
Maybe we should coin this like the Rockies scale, which is like if you are a zero point 0.0, you are in the midst of utter despair with no hope on the horizon. And like that to me, like if that's the barometer, both the White Sox and the Twins are well ahead of that.
Yes, yes. And I still sit here and wonder if they are going to break the record, take it from the White Sox, because there's still a part of me that wants the White Sox to keep that just so that I can be like, see, Jerry, this is how bad you are as an owner, and I hate you, and you should just
Go
give
away.
up.
In
Um,
in Twins Twitter we call that I'm leaving here with something.
yes, yes,
Like Brooks Lee just made a great play if you're watching the game, and I'm leaving here with something. Twins might lose by double digits, but I'm leaving here with something.
exactly. All right, let's take a quick break and then we can dive right into whatever this series might be. All right, welcome back. So, series with the Twins. Obviously, we're the bottom dwellers of the Central. You have no idea. Outside of Zebby Matthews is going to be pitching in the first game. That we at least do know, and he's not having a great season. He'll see Aaron Savali, who is, some days he's great and shows flashes
We've
of,
been there.
yeah, flashes of light, and then other days I'm just like, can you just not? And he's like the only vet. Oh well, no, Martin Perez is back now, so I
Okay,
can't
I
say
didn't
he's
know
the only.
that. Yeah, we love Martine. My favorite story of his was the when the bull trampled him and he had to miss time because he was hurt.
Mm.
And then somebody
Mm-hmm.
said, "So what happened to that bull?" And he like rubbed his belly because
Yeah.
he's got a ranch. So Martin Perez is a character. I covered him in Minnesota, and he was so fun. But that he's good for fun bad teams because he throws
Yeah.
hard. The peripherals aren't there, but he's again fun bad. But with Zebby, by the way, just to interject, hardest thrower on the Twins starting staff. If he keeps the ball in the yard, he's amazing. If he doesn't, just like any other pitcher gets in trouble, but that's basically the difference for him. If the ball stays in the yard, he's going to strike out everybody. He's not going to walk anybody. But again, the volatility of young pitchers, which the Twins will gladly let those guys take their lumps down the stretch here, as really all they're now doing is jockeying for draft lottery position. And again, using this as valuable developmental space.
So we kind of know what to expect from him. You did just break that down, and you most days don't know who's pitching until day of. So
Yeah.
are we going to also see a lot of bullpen games? Because you'll see, like I said, you'll see Savali, you'll see Davis Martin for the second game, and Davis Martin has been great. In our Southside Sox Slack, I started the Davis Martin hype train.
Nice.
I'm the conductor. And then Gomez, who he just came up, Yanders Gomez, he just came up, or who knows with him at this point. But are we going to see a lot of bullpen games? Do you think I mean, what are you predicting for this pitching matchup?
It would not shock me if Taj or Abel maybe came up to make a start. I think if you give them the last month or 6 weeks to work on some stuff, they've been down there long enough. I mean, Abel has been so darn good that you almost get a little over eager to see him. But otherwise, yeah, you're probably looking at a bullpen game started by Thomas Hatch, who he had worked as a starter in the minors, but the Twins kind of picked him up on waivers and have used him little here, little there, but more as a de facto starter. The bulk guys are, yeah, Pearson, Ole. They were using Travis Adams like that. He was also on the 4-day plan, but they just sent him back. So unless somebody goes on the IL, he won't be coming back. So the funny thing is, though, like the average Twins fan could maybe name 3 or 4 guys in the bullpen right now. That's how much change there's been. And so you might see Brooks Kriske. You might see Michael Tonkin, who's been throwing probably a little more than he should. I mean, it just is what it is. And then they're basically claiming anybody who hits waivers with a pulse. So, we'll see what happens there. But I'm as in the dark as you as far as who's going to pitch those games. And there may be some competitive, like, oh, they don't know who they're going to face until 11 a.m., but big deal. Like, it doesn't do that much, and they're not trying actively to win these games. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it just
Well,
is what it is.
at the same time, no, baseball is so weird that you can bring in a pitcher who you just claimed off waivers and has not, played a major league game in 2 years, and the White Sox could make him look like a Cy Young because they're not used to what he's doing. I mean, they're not used to him, so they can make him look like a Cy Young
Well, the
candidate.
Twins had Joey Wentz for a bit. He'd been with the Tigers. He was traded by the Braves, and they DFA'd and whatever. He cleared and went. Or I don't. He didn't clear. He went back to Atlanta. Atlanta, full circle. And last I checked, he's been exceptional for them. He had an ERA in the double digits with the Twins out of the bullpen. Sometimes it just clicks, and that you have to try be on the right side of that when it happens. You have to be. I mean, it's possible what the Twins worked with him on clicked someplace else. That's how like funny it is, these short bursts where guys are working on stuff. And so to have in some ways there is a luxury to be playing major league games without a ton of stakes, but guys learning outside of, off-season preparation or spring training games themselves, which are not particularly serious.
So, going back to just, this Twins team in general, who do you feel like on this team could be the biggest threat for the White Sox to face?
Well, I think Byron Buxton would be an easy answer. He bats leadoff, and White Sox fans are intimately aware of what he's capable of. So
Yeah.
if we take him out of the equation, Luke Keeschel. Now there were rumors that the Twins and the White Sox, when the Twins were looking at pitching and wanted Eric Fetty, that might have been something proposed by one side or the other. It didn't happen. That he went to the Cardinals. He fell apart for the Cardinals, and we all know the rest of that story. But he came into the last game of the A's series with, I believe, 17 hits in his first 13 MLB games. He hits everything except lefties, and he just plays the game with the enthusiasm of a golden retriever puppy. And
Mm-hmm.
the reason I make that comparison is because the Twins are searching for leaders after Byron Buxton. And you wouldn't think of a retriever puppy as a leader, but someone that grows into a leader. Like golden retrievers, obviously some of the best dogs you can have. You ever heard anybody say, "Oh, that golden, I don't like that golden retriever"? No, right? They turn into good dogs. I think that's what Keishel is a youngster who works hard, plays hard, leaves everything out there. He's a good player besides, but he's got that kind of aura to him, if I can steal a phrase, that I think players, fans, everyone's going to gravitate toward him. And then in the meantime, he rakes. He's getting better at second base. He did have Tommy John surgery last year, and so he's been kind of struggling with his throws from second base a little bit. As he heals, he may play outfield, whatever. But somebody tagged up on him on a pop up to second where he backpedaled and didn't have enough on the throw. So he does have limitations, but offensively he rakes, and that's the guy you got to watch out for. Brooks Lee's been swinging it better since Correa left. We can speculate why that is, but he's the everyday shortstop now. And then the rest of the offense is just kind of we don't know. Matt Wallner has hit, and then he hasn't hit. He's basically doing a Joey Gallo impersonation. Larnach hits righties. It's all kind of nebulous. You look at the stats, and there's the haves and the have-nots. Other than Keishel, though, nobody's going to stand out as someone you have to really be concerned about besides Buxton.
So, with that, what are the keys for the Twins to take this series from the White Sox? Because they're both playing kind of weird baseball right now, as is. So, what can they do to just take this series?
Runs early. I mean, it's foundational, but the Twins have, last I checked, one of the worst run differentials in innings 1 through 3. And if you dig a hole like that, it's hard to get out with the state of pitching staffs these days. You leave yourselves, an inning or two before you get to these bullpens where guys are all throwing 96. They have wipeout sliders. And I mean, the state of the bullpen on a lot of teams right now, they have 3-4 guys who are just nasty. And so if you get behind on starters consistently, it's hard to day in and day out score 2, 3, 4 runs when you need it against even teams' second, third, fourth best relievers. And that's been the struggle they've had all year. They just can't start games the way they need to.
Well, the good news is the White Sox bullpen tends to just implode on itself. So if you don't get those runs early, there's time.
That's true.
Just
And
watch.
it's been an offensively frustrating season to say the
Hmm.
least. And it doesn't appear like the end in sight is anything other than the end of the season.
So on the other side of that coin, what kind of fears do you have going into this series with the White Sox?
I think anytime you have young players on a team who are they're highly regarded prospects, they're on a team that doesn't have visions of contending. When those guys start grinding for their futures, it's guys, even if they're like the top prospect at shortstop or whatever, right? Colson Montgomery or
Mm.
whoever else, they have a lot to play for, and that's going to come out in their effort. It's taking extra bases. It's just wanting to show that you deserve to be on the 2026 roster from the jump. Spring training starts the second you join the team. And so those teams are young, they're hungry, and they want to be spoilers. You can spoil the season for teams that are not going to the playoffs by still beating them and beating them soundly when you have a worse record. It just shows like you're hungry and ready, and I think that's kind of the energy the White Sox need to have down the stretch, and it's the energy the Twins should too.
So moving away from these teams, this is just kind of where I love to chat about just baseball and what you're noticing, what you're liking or hating, or your hot takes. I mean, obviously, we are in the final stretch of this season, but what have you just noticed this whole baseball season?
I love to see what Milwaukee's doing. I like teams who obviously I don't like that they operate financially like the Guardians, and I mean basically any other central team outside of like peak Cubs. But with that said, they use data. I mean, contrary to what the Athletic might tell you, they use data and they make cutting edge decisions. They build teams that can compete year in and year out. And I made a joke this last off season that the Dodgers would sign Soto and they would sign Sasaki, and then they would lose to the 86 win Brewers in the division series. Brewers are going to get to 86 wins if they haven't already. They're going to do it a lot earlier than the end of the season. But I'm feeling pretty good about like, yeah, the Dodgers, obviously they didn't get Soto, but they don't want to face Milwaukee in the playoffs. Nobody
Mhm.
wants to face Milwaukee. So I love to see what Milwaukee's doing. And beyond that, I mean, I like Toronto. Toronto's been doing some fun stuff too. I want to see somebody different win, make the playoffs, all that stuff. Again, the Yankees haven't won in a long time, but I still don't want to see it. I just
Yeah.
I don't ever want to see it. I want to see the Blue Jays face the Brewers in the World Series. That to me would be, the Paul Molitor series. That'd be a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm genuinely tired of the Yankees and the Dodgers being the only teams that matter.
Yep,
And I say that as somebody who enjoys a lot of players on both of those teams, but I'm so tired of just those two
yep.
forever.
Yeah, I don't need to know that you're going to trade your three prospects in the bottom of your top 30 for Joe Ryan. I'm sick of hearing it.
Yeah. I'm also just tired of hearing like what Shohei Ohtani's dog had for breakfast in the middle of like a Pirates Phillies game.
In a little graphic on the bottom corner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel it, and I would love a Blue Jays Brewers series. Now that I think about that, the Canadian in me would love to see the Blue Jays make it.
Well, from our lips to God's ears, because I would love it.
We'll cross our fingers. All right,
Yes.
well, that's what I've got for you. Thank you so much for coming back. Please just remind people where they can find you.
I always say they shouldn't, but at Brandon underscore Warne on the tweets, Access Twins on Substack, and then Locked On Twins for the podcast. It's pretty much all there, and we'd love to have you like, subscribe, all that fun stuff.
All right, well, thank you so much. Best of luck in this wonky, weird series we're going to have.
You bet. Be good.
Bye.